Hello. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Can we have the participants who are here come up on stage and join me? Joseph Stewart from the GU 272 Descendants, Randy and Sarah, Lotte and Briayna, come on up. And if we could also just have a round of applause for the amazing team that made this film. Lacey and Moret, the producers, Daryl Ford Williams, the executive producer who shepherded this project, the amazing editors. Please stand. Jessica Lee Salas, Cecilia Andrenato, Chris Hastings of America Reframe. Please stand. This was a team effort. So thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask a few, and then we're going to open it up to all of you. So please, if you have a question, think about it, let it marinate. But I really wanted to start by saying you're going through hundreds of years of legacy, personal history, government legislation. This is a huge project. How do you compress it into roughly an hour film?
Yeah, it's really hard. So this project came to me through Daryl Ford Williams, who is the executive producer. And we started with my team, with Lacey and Moret as producers, trying to figure out exactly how we were going to do that. There was a really nice development period we had for the film, really working with a group called Just Futures, a consortium of universities that were, tasked to look into and examine this issue. And they had made so much work in reaching out to organizations like GU, the Descendant organization, and Sarah and Randy's and Lotte and Briayna's organization. And we realized that there was a way that we could tell this story through these personal narratives. And I thought that would be most effective because it's such a big issue. And in some ways, it's like, where do we start? Exactly, how do we capture people to, understand the history and the present day and how they interact. And so from there, it was really a process with my amazing editors, the amazing editorial team, to figure out how we would whittle that down and still get in the information that we needed to get in for people to understand while still taking the viewer through these narratives. It's even less than an hour. It's what, 57 minutes? 56, and 40 seconds. So, there are things obviously that we had to leave out, but one of the things that's most exciting about this project is that there's going to be a robust impact and education campaign where we can have other parts of the story that we were, not able to include.
Very well said. I'm curious about something you mentioned, saying that these relationships were existing through different organizations and this sort of pre-process, but a film is different. So when you are like, hey, I'm going to make this film now about all of you, I'm curious about your approach and also how you guys reacted to that and what was that like?
Well, why don't we start with how they reacted, because we just reached out and asked them if we could film them, and they so graciously were open and excited about it. But if you guys have stuff to add.
Thank you for receiving this film. Thank you for receiving this film. It's so heartfelt. It's so moving just to even know that our story has come this far. But having a Zoom call with Yoruba, Mired, Iris, they made us feel at home. They understood our story. They understood our background. And them coming to film us was just natural. They're a great team.
You did this to yourselves. I will admit I definitely had some hesitancy, I think, in doing something like this. But anyone that knows me knows that I'm big on my people. So any platform I can take to talk about my specific people at home, but especially the Mid-Atlantic area, since a lot of people talk about the Deep South, but not the Upper South, if you will. I'm going to take it. And so just for after that, it's a matter of what does that look like, and just balancing everything else I have going on.
When we were approached, we were having convenings with the Jesuits at the time to try and continue to move forward in our vision for transformation in this country. And to me, we were doing it at a time when this country needs transformation. It has always needed it since slavery, but we need to come to grip with that more and more. And to be approached, to be asked to be a part of a documentary that's going to live on and live on and live on and tell this story, to me, it was an opportunity that we could not have dreamt of. So thank you, Yoruba, for having the insight.
You have a lot of, are you guys, no? Okay. You feel free. This is also a huge historical undertaking alongside the lives that you're following. Is there anything in the archive or surprises or things that you were able to uncover that really helped bolster this story?
Yeah, I've now made a few archival films. I didn't necessarily mean to go in that path, but there's so much history that needs to be uncovered and that needs to be seen. And it's kind of incredible what you get when you work with a team, because again, this was a team. Iris, our associate producer, who headed our drive for archives, is not able to join us, but she was incredibly instrumental in helping us, get this footage and clearing the rights. But I guess one of the things that I thought was really important is that we see scenes and pictures and photos of slavery, and not just slaves, but of white slave owners. Lotte has a line where she says, our history has been whitewashed, right? So we don't see how, as much as possible, I wanted us to be able to see how slavery was enacted. I mean, how it actually, there were owners and there were slaves and there was cotton and there was, this wasn't just, something that, just mysteriously happened. It was a process. And white people were, instituting it. So I thought it was really important that we see that kind of footage. But again, finding these archives, I mean, it was up until, I would say, the last minute, it was a process of finding that footage.
I see these cards in your hands. I'm curious about, this film is a moment, but where do we anticipate this moment having to do with the work, and what do we see going forward? And this is a question for everyone about the work that you're doing on racial repair.
This is my cue. The designated spokesperson, exactly. So reparationsforslavery.com, we are an education portal, and I really believe that this incredible documentary is the perfect vehicle to really bring black people and white people together to explore this history. That's what we try to do in our lecture, and you see maybe a few minutes in the film, but we go into brass tacks, the exact details of how the crime is committed and what the effects are using our families. When Bree talks about sharecropping in her family, I can say, oh yeah, there's a Freedmen's Bureau claim by somebody who my family enslaved about how when they were sharecroppers later, they cheated them on the way to the cotton. So any experience her family's had, I can say, here's how we did it and here's the proof. And I would like to get white people, you do the research. So we call it reparative genealogy. Genealogy typically is for, the Mayflower descendants. Separate ourselves, we're also wonderful. And yes, I'm a member because I'm infiltrating them. So what I want to do is bring people together again. That is the nature of reparative genealogy. That is the nature of what we teach. We have 40 classes that we teach over the last 3 years in different aspects of repair that are needed. And all of it filters through the racial wealth gap, and we show exactly how that works. So anyway, so education is key, absolutely key for everyone in this room. If this is your passion, please bring this documentary to your area, your organization, whatever, facilitate a conversation. And all of the people here on this stage, we can help deepen this conversation. I just want to thank Yoruba again for creating a tremendous opportunity for the entire world to begin this conversation. Thank you. In fact, another round of applause.
This film, a lot of what Randy and I really like to do is go around and tell our interpersonal story about our two families and our friendship. This film focuses on the reason we met, the heirs property. But as we started growing our friendship, we started wondering what else can we do, and so our work is really through a foundation that supports Black education, Black land preservation, and Black art. And so we do a lot of paying taxes for Black landowners so they don't lose the land to tax auction sale. We fund a lot of scholarships, and we go around and talk to these scholars. And actually, as you saw some of in the film, that's one of our favorite things to do is to be able to share and get their feedback and hear about what listening to our story might bring up for the younger generation. So this film is clearly an amazing thing to bring, especially from our perspective, to universities, to communities, anywhere, so that we can then expand on our story. And I mean, I personally want to take Randy around on a speaking tour because he's the best speaker ever.
And in terms of the film, just a couple of things. You guys should have all received cards. What do reparations mean to you? Please use the QR code, or you can text or voice on WhatsApp 857-498-5778. Answer the question. What do reparations mean to you? We are premiering on PBS January 8th. And we will use this in our social media and getting the word out. And you could also vote for us for Audience Award, which I didn't realize we were eligible for. So, and there's another screening. We had to turn some folks away. Please tell folks Thursday, November 16th, I believe 8 p.m. is another opportunity to see the film in a theater. And I do think that's really special. So,
Very well said. We have time for a couple of questions. I would love to take some if there are any. Okay. All right. There is a hand here and a hand here. So let's go here first, and then we'll come here.
So I have a question for the two women who started this process individually. Did you get pushback from your families or your friends about this? What kind of pushback?
I'm really, really happy to say none. And I think, I have about 10 friends here that flew out with me from California. I'm just so lucky. And my parents, my extended family, everyone has just said, keep going.
I also am very lucky. My sister accepted the idea immediately. I have two 88-year-old aunts who can't be here because they can no longer travel. They're going to stream tomorrow. They're bringing people in to show them how to stream. They've never done it. And the other thing I want to say is I have expanded what family means. I have expanded what family means.
There was a hand here. Yes? No? Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that your family supports the work that you're doing. I just quickly Googled what percent of white Americans support reparations, and the answer is 20% or 80% do not. So my question is, what have you discovered in your work is the most compelling way to get your white colleagues to shift from, hell no, I don't support this, to a more open posture?
Thank you. First, some good news. In Evanston, that number has come way up, and it's because of their local repair efforts and education in the community. So I don't have the statistic in mind, but it's gone up to something like over 50% are saying yes, including white people. So it's all about education, bringing people together, and telling these stories. So honestly, when Bree and I give our lecture, even conservatives will say, wow, I've never heard this version of our history. I can't deny that it's true. I think I have some thinking to do. Those are conservatives. Even my mentor builds nuclear power plants around the world. He is as right-wing as you could be. And yet, because we're both strategists, he just says, well, I hate it, but you've got good points. Oh, I hate that. So it's all about how you tell the story. And I'm kind of more of an engineer-like person, and so is Bree, so we have that in common. We bring together people who have more heart than we do, so we try to... Every door that you can open... We're brass tacks, right? Yes, she said yes. But you notice, okay, Norma Johnson is here. Norma, stand up, please. Norma Johnson. Norma opens the door to the heart and the soul, and then we get down to brass tacks, telling the story.
I just wanted to add, too, that there was another participant that we were introduced to through Lotte, Tad, whose story we were able to follow as well. We weren't able to include it in the film, but we hope to include it in the short. And he, is a Republican, or was a Republican, I guess, until recently, but on the more conservative side. And he found out his own family history with enslavement in Missouri. And he's become one of the, fiercest advocates of, white people, talking to white people, and getting them to uncover their history and working towards reparations. So it may sound crazy being like the time that we live in and the politics, but I think we've seen it, and you've seen it in your work that you're doing.
So Tad is a private equity guy. I mean, as conservative as you could be. He went through our 2-year course, and by the end he said, okay, you've convinced me, I'm a reparationist. That's the word we use, reparationist. Now what do I do? So.
No, I just wanted to note, just from my side of things too, I think especially with the way Lotte and I go about it, and the way I talk to people individually, I pose things as questions, and because I know my family history so extensively, no matter the topic or industry or experience or law or legal aspect to it, I've got an ancestor for that, or a living person, my grandfather being one of them. And that poses an issue when when I'm one-on-one with people, or even one to a group, where if someone wants to bring up, their opposing viewpoint, I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you about this person that raised me and what they went through, and the pieces as to why that was for them, and what that means for my quality of life now. Now retool what you said to me and make it make sense. And then I get met with silence. So I don't know, we have kind of a ulterior motive kind of approach to it, and it ends with people being like, okay, well, reparations make sense, even though even the course that we do, the header of it is not about convincing people to be pro reparations. It's let's see what you already know, what you didn't know, what you didn't know that you didn't know. And people come to it themselves, especially when there's the personal stories intertwined with it and examples, in particular with living people or recent people. And I think there's always the angle too with my being young and interested in genealogy, that throws people off guard too, because a lot of people don't get into genealogy in the context of history and your relatives until usually 40s, 50s, 60s. And I just turned 30, and I'm like, nah, let me tell you about these last 200 years and these people. And so they're like, wait a minute. And it kind of disorients them, but also makes them think, okay, so is this what, something, are these the kinds of black women that, my daughter or my niece or my nephew are running up against in real life? Yes. And if you haven't already addressed stuff family history-wise, I'm going to hurt their feelings. People like me will hurt their feelings with it. But I think that the approach that I think even with Sarah and Randy and with Lotte and I, the personal lens kind of makes it hard for people to just dismiss versus if you're talking about reparations conceptually.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Joe.
Just sharing a thought about the importance of the diversity up here, and I mean in the different approaches that's being taken to the same subject. Reparation, I like to talk about transformation as well, because nothing will be sustained until we have transformation in the hearts and minds of Americans, white particularly, and white and black in general. I say that to point out something, because your question about the number of whites in America who buy into this subject, I want to point out a little piece of uniqueness about not different, not better, not worse, just uniqueness about what we've attempted to do with the Truth and Reconciliation Foundation. Because we found that it was Jesuits and a religious organization, one of the largest religious organizations in America. We took an approach to bite, to be able to chew what we could bite. And then as a lifelong Catholic, those of us that were enslaved were baptized Catholics. So we chose to take a moral route to holding people responsible for the immorality of slavery. And the way we did that was to go to the clergyman who vowed a responsibility to God for morality, to teach all of us, to ask all of us to be led by what they believe, the Word of God. And so we went to the Jesuits and say, you have a responsibility to be moral leaders. And we first want you to accept this. Notice in the film Aruba, these two beautiful white women, did you see any white men that you interviewed? Yes, you did. It was the Jesuits. So look back to the picture, and in America, how many places you're going to see the hierarchy of control in America speaking in a positive way, the way we've gotten the Jesuits, who is the largest religious organization, to begin to embrace the need for truth and reconciliation. And so Father Paulson, I think, Father Kosecki, I hadn't seen their words, but they are powerful words for the white power structure in America that's at the root of the racist problem in America. So in a sense, this is our effort to, number one, get the Jesuits, number two, to get the Catholic Church to be moral leaders in the movement to truth, healing, transformation, and the end of the need, the repairing of the breach, I will say. So I just want to point that out. And it's so pleasing for me to be here with all of you, because then we are all a part of the same mission in this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Yoruba, if you would like to give us any last words.
Last word is just answer the question, if you will, to what does reparations mean to you? Spread the word about the screening on Thursday, November 16th, and our premiere on PBS, January 11th. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and vote for the Audience Award as well.